Sorry?
Starting stream.
Yep.
Pat, you are live.
Yes, welcome everybody here to another live dive here at Casuarina Point in Grand Cayman. Capturing this ginormous crab on camera right now as we are. And up on the surface, we have Simone for our marine biologist today.
Hello, everybody. I will be on the surface ready to answer your questions.
Yes, don't forget, if you're asking through Twitter to use the hashtag diveLIVE. Please ask us anything you might want to know. Now, as I said earlier, we have found this giant crab. I would say from tip to tip, this is about the size of a basketball. It is huge.
It does look pretty big, and it looks like a clinging crab. So they're actually called clinging crabs because they can cling upside down. Wow, that's an awesome image there. They can cling upside down. And they like to eat anything that kind of swings on by. He looks very, very still. Is he alive?
Yes, it was moving earlier, but
okay.
I think these guys are much more active at night time. You can see it's got these big pincers that it can use for defense and also in predation.
Yeah, they do look a little bit nasty, but they're no harm to Pat. Don't worry, he's going to be okay.
Yes. If I put my finger close to it, it might be a different story, but I'm going to steer very clear of this big fella.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And they're actually this red color because they are nocturnal animals. Oh, there we go. He is definitely alive. We'll make sure he's okay. And you can actually see in the center of his face, there are these kind of little filtering appendages that are trying to eat anything that it's sensing out of the water.
Now, it's not uncommon to see these crabs missing a claw or even a leg or two. They have some pretty fierce battles if they dislike each other, especially the males, and it's going to result in some very nasty battle scars.
Yeah. And Sammy Jane was wondering, what are those little things swimming around it? So those are actually mysid shrimp. And so mysid shrimp are tiny juvenile shrimp that hang around these crabs, and they'll actually eat some of the food that's left over from the crabs.
Yes, and funnily enough, the little shrimp swimming around it are also crustaceans, so despite the difference in size, they're actually still pretty closely related.
Yeah, they certainly are. And we can get a good view of those claws there now. You can imagine he would be pretty scary to take on. And crabs can actually ditch their claws. They can let go of them if they're ever really threatened. And it'll grow on back.
Yeah, so there's some pretty amazing structural properties of crustaceans such as this crab. So on top of what Simone just said, they also regenerate their shell in a process called molting. So because they have this hard shell, that is their skeleton, their exoskeleton. And as they get bigger, they need to shed this to grow a new one. So during this process that's called molting, they'll lose their shell and then they'll be very soft-skinned and very prone to attack or to be damaged. Then they'll spend a few days in hiding and regrow the shell all over again.
Yeah, and Child of the Universe was wondering, do people eat these crabs? And they can eat these crabs, but what a lot of people do is actually eat soft shell crabs, which is what Pat was talking about. So when they molt, they leave their hard shell and they are very vulnerable, and that's actually when a lot of people catch them and eat them. And Pat, can we confirm, how big did you say this crab was? Everyone wanted to know.
So from leg to leg, it would be about the size of a basketball. I would say its claws, from the tip of the claw to its body, would be about 50 centimetres, so 20 inches.
I don't know if he'd be very good at playing basketball. He'd probably pop the basketball with those huge claws. And they are a crustacean, so that's because they have this hard shell around them. Now, that doesn't mean things don't want to eat them. Something this big would probably be taken on by maybe a bottom-dwelling shark, as well as big, strong-jawed snappers will give this a go, and groupers. So though he looks like nothing would beat him up, he would definitely need to hide during the daytime. Yeah, we're getting loads of questions. A lot of people enjoy seeing this crab. Sammy Jane was wondering, what does it eat? So it can eat absolutely kind of anything. Sometimes they sift through the sand. They can eat fish. It all depends. They're quite opportunistic. They can also just eat algae off the rocks.
Yes, they have a very, very diverse diet. Most crustaceans do, actually. They're pretty generalist in what they will eat.
Yeah, and Take Care was wondering, Pat, what is the shell made of?
So it is made of calcium carbonate, which is a structure that is utilised by a lot of different creatures. And I believe in crabs they also sometimes use chitin as well. Or chitin, sorry, C-H-I-T-I-N.
Yeah, and
it's a very hardy substance.
It is very hardy. It's very hard to cut through these, and the amount of chitin in these claws is so dense that it's really hard to break them, and that's why the crabs use them so effectively as defense mechanisms. Heather was wondering, do these crabs have lungs?
No, so just like a lot of other creatures down here, crabs actually have gills, and they need to constantly have water running over these gills to breathe. Now, you might notice sometimes when you're at the beach that some species of crabs actually come out of the water and walk around on land. So this is because they have the ability to trap water over their gills. So sometimes you might see a crab bubbling or foaming up, and that's it, keeping the water going over its gills by trapping it inside its body.
Yeah, they're very, very talented, and this is such a diverse group. So this is a true crab. We also know that sometimes we see hermit crabs and things like that, but a true crab can make its own shell. So it has its own protection, whereas hermit crabs have to kind of steal the leftovers of snails' bodies to have their own protection. And Marcy was wondering, do they fight with these claws?
Yes, they most certainly do, and they can have some very serious battle scars as a result from it.
Yeah, and like we said, they can lose them as well during these massive battles. And they are a little bit territorial. Obviously, they don't want to move too much from their feeding grounds. So they like to defend their territory. But sometimes during the year, they will actually come all together to breed and mate and molt together. So that's when they're not too territorial, and they'll have a nice group gathering. And now, Pat, how deep are you that you're seeing this amazing animal? We don't normally see them.
15 metres depth, so about 50 to 60 feet deep. And now, as I am pretty deep, I am using up a bit of air. So I'm going to head around to the edge of this reef here and see what we can find on the sand patch near the Devil's Grotto.
Oh, that sounds good. And there was actually a hogfish that swam behind Pat there, if anyone saw. That was a hogfish.
Ah, let's see. Oh, there it is. Wow, it's right there.
Yeah, is he still there?
Yeah, it's just hanging right near me and Rihanna. Almost a bit curious, it looks like.
Ah, it's crazy when you are down there. It's so hard to kind of hear if an animal's approaching. Wow, there he is. That's the hogfish. And how big would you say this hogfish is?
This one's quite large. I reckon it is about 70, maybe 80 centimetres long. So about 2 foot. Over 2 foot.
That's pretty large. And you'll see he's sticking close to the bottom, hopefully looking for some food. And hogfish are not very afraid of humans or divers. They are quite a friendly bunch. And there we can see it, looking and skulking for food.
And they are a wrasse, although they don't really look like a wrasse at all. They're quite large and have a very different shaped body. And we can see here it's getting a nice clean.
Oh yeah, so the cleaning fish, those small little fish, are actually biting any dead skin or parasites off that fish. Beautiful. So Lara was wondering, why is it called a hogfish?
Well, it's because, for 2 reasons. They kind of have a bit of a snout where that nose ends, it slopes down into a snout. And because they sniff through the sand using this snout, it kind of looks like a hog sniffing through looking for truffles.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to find any delicious truffles down here. I wish. Marine truffles would be pretty tasty, I think. Yeah, and you can just keep on watching him. So he's going to be feeding, and when he stops feeding, he'll be getting a clean. So it's kind of like breakfast time and bath time all in one. And you can see there were some fish that actually followed him out into the water. So those would have been his cleaning fish, saying, hey, where are you going? I've still got some stuff to clean off you.
Now, there are thousands and thousands of fish schooling above the reef just here. Probably all feeding on the plankton that's stirred up in the water right now, but this is a large aggregation. So the smaller bluefish are blue chromis, the striped fish are sergeant majors, and the larger darker fish, or silvery to dark fish, are called chumps.
And there are so many fish in the water at the moment because of all the plankton that's been pushed here. So the plankton is the small floating particles that the fish eat. There we've got a beautiful view of those chubs. So those are those blacky silver fish. And on the right, we're getting a huge school of horse-eyed jacks.
Yes. Wow, this is quite a massive school of horse-eyed jacks coming through now. So there must be quite a bit of food around because all of the fish seem to be concentrated into this one little spot.
Yeah, this is really awesome. So jacks are also known as trevally in some places of the world. And you can see their big black eyes, why they're called horse-eyed jacks here. And how many fish would you say were in that horse-eyed jack school?
Oh, I would say about 70.
That's quite a lot. And they're still juvenile, so they can get a lot bigger than what we're seeing now.
Yes, they are all quite small. I would say probably about, the biggest one's only about 50 centimetres here.
Yeah, we're getting a beautiful view of you swimming with all of the fish. So we have the chubs on the left, the black fish, and then on the right we have those schooling horse-eyed jacks.
Yes, I feel like there's accepted me as one of them.
You look very fishy. And these horse-eyed jacks can really go from, 2 meters depth to 150 meters down just to hunt. They have an amazing, almost like an eyelid that lets them see in the darkest of dark conditions.
Yes, and they have, as Simone said, a reflective membrane that once light enters their eye, it gets reflected back into their eye. So they make use of the light a lot better than others.
Yeah, it's a really, really beneficial adaptation. And they can get quite large, over 3 feet long. And that's why they're really popular for anglers to catch these fish.
Yeah, so they've got these big, well not big, but slender yet very, very muscular bodies. So they can use this when they propel themselves to really increase the surface area and get a lot of propulsion and a lot of speed. So if there was to be some sort of little fish or prey here, we would be able to demonstrate it because they just absolutely annihilate it. It's like a sprinter, like Usain Bolt. They can just go bang. And they also have a very deeply forked tail, which is another use for really generating power, because they have all that surface area but reduced drag because of that deep fork.
Yeah, they can reach incredible speeds. I mean, fish in general can, but that forked tail, you are correct, it just identifies the speedy fish of the sea. Now, Pat, I can't see you anymore. You're turned into a fish. You're blending in. Now, James was wondering, Ryan was wondering, will they attack like a pack of lions? Will these fish attack like a pack of lions?
Well, I guess so. If there was a school of bait fish hanging around, most definitely. So we obviously won't see it now because there isn't any bait fish, but when there's a big bait ball, they will go nuts. They will all go and just bang, 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 bang. And if they're smart enough, they will even herd them. So they will break the bait ball up into smaller parts, single them out, and then they get themselves an even easier feed by working together.
Yeah, and James was also wondering what sort of outside factors affect the growth rate, and this really comes back to the feeding of those bait balls. If they do reach any of those bait balls, they can grow very large because there's so much food for them. They also do like colder waters as well. Oh, we've got a beautiful tarpon.
Yes, this is a big one. I would say this is about 1.5 meters long.
1.5 meters, wow, that's huge. So that's about 4 to 5 feet.
So that is about 5 feet.
Yeah, and they can grow much bigger than that, but that is still a very large animal for what we see here. And you can see his big eyes checking out the camera. He definitely hunts at night. That's how we can tell he's a nocturnal animal.
Yeah, definitely. So they're very active at night. They're very calm during the day though, which is why it's always good to see them during the day, because they're really nice to observe and get a good look at.
And Ben Dover was exclaiming that that is a very big fish. It certainly is. It's one of the biggest that we get on the reef. Pat, have you seen anything bigger on this reef besides the tarpon?
Only nurse sharks, really. And maybe a big grouper. It wouldn't be bigger than this, but groupers almost get as big as tarpon. But yeah, the only other fish I can think of is a nurse shark.
Yeah, I think you're right. Nurse sharks can grow around 2.5 meters, which is about 8 feet. And Cheryl was wondering, is the reef unhealthy because it looks so green? Is it really green down there, Pat?
What is that, sorry?
Is it very green down there, or are we just losing light from the top of the surface?
Yeah, I think that's just the light from the camera. It's actually looking really good today. So the last 2 weeks or so, we've had some pretty bad weather. So it's only really been the last 3 or 4 days that's really started to clear up. So the visibility is heaps better today. It's, I would say, about 20, maybe even 25 meters. So about 80 feet of visibility.
Yeah, that's really great visibility from around the world. And we have to...
Oh, wow, this is a huge school of tarpon up here.
Oh.
I've never seen them school so much. There are so many just here.
Wow.
And it's also strange because they're not in their usual caves. So usually in the day, they like to rest in cracks, well, not cracks, but caves and crevices. But these guys are just hanging out in the open.
Wow, and they look very still and serene. Do they look like they're schooling towards the grotto, or are they just sitting in the water column?
Yeah, so they are sort of, well, we are pretty close to the grotto. We are essentially at the grotto. But they're usually all hanging out in these swim-throughs through here. These guys are just sitting there with these blank expressions. They must be resting.
And Heidi was wondering, are they schooling together because of security reasons?
Well, yes, there's always strength in numbers, and that is why fish tend to stick together. And especially when they're resting throughout the day, they want to make sure that nothing's going to come and get them while they're sleeping. So they will always hang out together, and I suppose the movement would alert one another as to whether there was any danger present.
Yeah, and their main predator is either humans from fishing or large sharks. And large sharks don't normally frequent the shallow coral reefs here. So I think they're pretty safe. They're just cruising with some friends.
Yeah. And once again, I've infiltrated the school and become one of them.
Uh-oh, he's never going to come up, I know it.
This is amazing.
No, it looks really relaxing as well, just watching them. Let's just take in the serenity for a moment.
Oh, did we see that? Did anyone just get a view of that?
Oh, maybe.
One of the tarpon just had a little freak out. It just started chasing a few other ones and switching about. I'm not sure why it did that.
No, I didn't see it, but maybe he will do it again. We may have seen it. I was looking away at some of the questions.
Now, tarpon are actually air breathers, which is pretty incredible. So, especially in mangroves, when they go in there to hunt and the tide falls, they'll quite often get trapped in there. Now, because there's not much water in this environment, it gets depleted of oxygen very, very quickly. So what the tarpon does is will come up to the surface and gulp air and breathe air. So this gives it an advantage in that it can prey on all the other little things trapped in there that are depleted of oxygen and so are really dazed out and kind of don't have much energy, really lethargic. So that's just an incredible adaptation of this animal. And because they are so prehistoric, time has allowed for a lot of adaptation, so they can also really tolerate a high range of salinities, right from freshwater to saltwater, or brackish water to saltwater.
Yeah, they are fearsome predators in every environment. Well, maybe not terrestrial, but...
Yeah.
Now, Unique was wondering, do these fish have bones?
Sorry?
Do these fish have bones?
Well, they don't have lungs, but their swim bladder, which is an organ that fish use for buoyancy, acts as kind of a pseudo-lung for them. So that's when they breathe there, that's what they use to breathe it with.
Yeah, so he was asking for bones with a B, and they are a bony fish, not a cartilaginous fish. And as we said before with those schooling horse-eyed jacks, they have that very angular tail, which shows that they can reach high speeds. Well, look at these tarpon. They have the same tail and a very muscular body. So it is a massive indicator that these fish can reach speeds, and they can actually migrate around 1,200 miles in a year. So some stay in one area while others choose to migrate long distances.
Now, it's interesting to see quite a few of these tarpon have scars on them. So I'm not sure whether that's from sharks that have tried to attack them, or whether they've had internal fights between males, or what's happened here, but quite a few of them look pretty beat up.
Where are the scars located on the body?
Sorry?
Where are the scars located on the body, or is it everywhere?
Some of them, it's mostly towards the back of the head for most of them.
That is really curious. I mean, we did see another tarpon chase off the other, so maybe it's from disputes.
Yeah, or maybe they're just clumsy and hit the reef or something.
Maybe they are clumsy as they hide in the caves. And you can see that they are really, really shiny. And this shiny look is from the scales. So they have scales like armor. They are a very ancient fish. So their scales are very thick and can grow up to about 3 inches long in the larger specimens.
Yes, they are massive, massive animals in all sense of the word.
So CNAC was wondering how many kilometers do these fish travel in their migrations? So they can travel all the way from Texas south to here in the Cayman Islands. As they are big fish, it isn't impossible to attach a tracking device. So they put tracking devices on these fish and watch them go over 1,200 miles. Marcy is asking, they look huge. Are these the size of small sharks, Pat?
Yes, yes. So this is actually a funny story. In the canal near where we live, we get tarpon that come in to hunt in the mangroves. And one day I was sitting out there and I thought I saw a shark breach, but after learning about how tarpon come up to air, I realised that it was actually probably a large tarpon. So the sharks we get on this reef, the nurse sharks, are generally about 1.5 to 2 metres, so up to about 6 feet. And the tarpon do reach that size. So in this school here, I would say they range from about 70 centimetres to about 1.5 metres. So they do look a bit like small sharks.
I'll always pretend that we saw a shark breaching.
Yeah, it's a cooler story, isn't it?
Exactly, you have to tweak a
big
story.
grouper.
Oh, you have a grouper. I haven't seen it yet. Oh, yes, so we have a big grouper in the center there. Do you know what species of grouper that is?
From back here, it looks like a Goliath grouper. It's got the same kind of coloration and pattern, but it doesn't want a bar as it's swam right off in the other direction.
Well, talking of bar, can we have an air check, Pat? Some of your surface dive buddies want to know.
Yes, sure. Thank you, my dive buddies. I am on 100 bar. So I've been down here for 35 minutes and I've shallowed up a little bit. I'm now at 11 metres deep, so about 40 feet down.
Yeah, so still quite deep and still in the area of Devil's Grotto.
Yeah, so we're actually right at the Devil's Grotto. Called so because a pirate named Devil apparently, that's the word I was looking for, apparently buried treasure here somewhere. Now, no one's found it yet, so, you know, we might keep our eyes peeled and share it with our diveLIVE family if we find it.
Yeah, I was diving the other day and I found a coin that was very rusty and I thought, this is it, I found buried treasure. But it was just a very rusty 20-cent coin. I was very disappointed. We have another question from Andrea. She's wondering, is there any great white sharks in the Cayman Islands?
No. So there hasn't. So a lot of big megafauna species, there's been sightings of here or there around here in the Caribbean, but great white sharks are not one of those species.
Yeah, great whites do enjoy colder waters, but this is where we do occasionally get tigers if we are lucky. And by that I mean tiger sharks, not actual tigers. Oh wow, so we're getting a really awesome look into the Devil's Grotto. Wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah, so Rian is going to go in there a little bit and I will hang back and make sure the cable doesn't bump anything.
Sounds like a good plan. This is
really cool looking in here. These swim-throughs are amazing here at the Devil's Grotto. So they're all natural geological formations from this reef, but they're actually very connected, almost like a cave system.
Yeah.
And a lot of different species tend to live in here.
So this is this the cave that we saw the crab?
Yes, yes it is. So that was actually very similar to the crab we saw at the start of this dive. So Owen and I were down here once and found that.
Yeah, it's glorious. And you can see how still they are in this cave. There wouldn't be any currents flowing through these caves, so they can just rest. And that's why they're here in the daytime, to rest. And there doesn't look like too much room to move in there either. There are quite a lot in there, maybe about 15 to 20. Wow.
Yeah, they're all packed in today. There's a lot of tarpon concentrated around this area today.
Yeah. And to confirm, this is a tarpon. That's the name of the fish, a tarpon. And they are all in the Caribbean as well as on the coast of America as well. And they can get very, very big. These are probably, Pat, you said these were about 5 feet?
Yeah, so the biggest are about 5 feet. The smallest probably about 3.
Yeah, and they're actually all coming here together. And I think we're probably seeing more because there is a congregation of small silversides. These are small schooling fish. And that's the tarpon's favorite food.
Yes, I believe, that is why there's such a high concentration here, because we have heard that there are quite a lot of silversides hanging around the grotto at the moment, and we can't see them now because they come out at night time, but yeah, as Simone said, the tarpon love to feed on it, which is why it's just about everywhere I'm looking right now, it's just tarpon.
They are really everywhere. It's almost a little bit creepy.
Yeah, especially when they're all sitting there really silent and still. Just, it's almost like zombies or something. Yeah,
they do. A little bit ominous. And they're letting us get so close that we can almost touch them. Can you, if you wanted to touch them, would you be able to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty, just swimming over the top around here. They're pretty fast fish. I'm pretty aware, but when I was swimming amongst them before, I was close enough that if I was to reach out my arm, I could have touched on, just like right now.
Yeah, and so Debbie was wondering what animals eat these tarpon, and that goes on to say that if we were trying to touch them, they almost wouldn't care, not that we should, but they are so relaxed because they don't have that many predators here. Of the predators that are here, that is the only tiger shark is what would eat them, and also obviously humans sometimes catch them.
Yes, and I believe they are also preyed upon by reef sharks, but there's not many reef sharks here. They're more towards the east side of Grand Cayman.
And they like warmer waters, so most larger fish actually enjoy congregating in colder, more nutrient-rich waters, but the tarpon enjoy the warmer waters of the Caribbean. And it's a beautiful shot. I'm very jealous of you, Pat. Now, a few people were wondering, how warm is the water?
So it is 28 degrees Celsius, which is 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So beautiful warm water.
Yeah, it's like bath water here. And Debbie was wondering, do the big schools of tarpon cause a decrease in the fish that they feed on in the area?
Sorry, what was that?
Do the big schools of tarpon cause a decrease in the fish that they feed on in the area? From Debbie. So Debbie, obviously nature, there will be some hunting and there will be a slight decrease, but the fish that they do consume school here because it's such a prosperous waters for them. So it's almost negligible. Nature has an amazing ability to balance itself out. And small fish can breed very, very quickly. These tarpon, actually, when it is breeding season, they can release about 3 million eggs in one spawning event. One individual can release 3 million eggs. So their numbers can also shoot up as well. It's pretty amazing.
Sorry, Simone, I'm just having a bit of trouble hearing you right now, which is why I've gone a bit silent.
That's okay, we can hear you perfectly.
That's good. Okay, so now I'm going to start shallowing up, things are running a bit lower on air, so when I go shallower, that means that there's going to be less pressure, so it's going to be I'm going to be using less air. So we've seen some big schools of stuff now, so maybe we'll try and find something a little bit interesting here. I'll keep my eyes out for maybe a little shrimp or your favourite Simone and arrow crab.
Oh, I hope so. I do love crabs. They're very groovy. Sorry, Proud Cat Mama was wondering, what is the fastest fish in the ocean? Now, the tarpon are actually, I believe, the 7th fastest fish. Don't quote me on that, but I'm quite sure the 7th fastest fish in the ocean, whilst the fastest is the sailfish.
Yes.
And they can reach, I think it's over 100 kilometers an hour. I think it's 78 miles an hour.
Yeah, they are incredibly fast and incredible predators. And because of their fast speed, they're also very highly prized in recreational fishing.
Yeah. And we,
So, speaking of little animals that I was going to point out, on this gorgonian here, we have a flamingo tongue.
Oh, yay!
So, flamingo tongues are a type of gastropod.
So we can't see it just yet. So keep your eyes peeled. It'll be a yellowy brown color. I think it's on the other side of the coral.
Yes, so on the other side, I'll just get out of your way here, Riyadh.
Oh, wonderful. So to confirm, that is a flamingo tongue siphomer, very similar to a snail. And you can see it has those bright orange spotches with a black ring around them.
Now, apart from butterfly fish and bearded fireworms, these are one of the only species here in Grand Cayman that will actually eat gorgonians, which is the sea fan that it's sitting on. And it does this by producing a bunch of chemicals that break down the gorgonian right down to its internal axial skeleton, and it will consume just about the whole lot. Now, this isn't too bad. It generally doesn't kill the gorgonian, but they have done some experiments which they don't really know why, but if they take away the bigger predators out of the ecosystem, then the flamingo tongues will multiply and do almost 8 times the damage to the gorgonians than what they would usually be doing. So it just goes to show that there really is this top-down control here in the ocean and in ecosystems, that if you take out the bigger predators, it's going to affect corals such as this one by increasing the amount of snails such as this flamingo tongue eating them.
Yeah, and if we go back to looking on that flamingo tongue that is perched on a gorgonian coral, we can see that there was a black line, a black stripe next to it. This black stripe is actually a mucus that has its own pheromones in it. So this is how they smell where each other are in attempts to breed with it. So, you know, slimy snails can leave trails. That black line is the mucus trail. So he's probably feeding on some polyps now and letting those pheromones go through the water column, so other snails can sense where he is. He or she, I'm not sure of the sex. It's very hard to sex them. And the bright spots that we can see is actually a flesh. So they can retract this fleshy piece and only show the plain color of the shell, which is creamy. And everyone is loving the images of this purple fan coral, the gorgonian.
Yes, and you'll notice that it is swaying directly in the current, so it's kind of directly with the current. And this is because they can actually rotate themselves on these axial skeletons to most efficiently filter all the food out of the water. And if you'll notice the sea fan behind it, I'm not sure whether you can see it on camera.
Yes, you can at the top.
It's also facing the same direction, and so that is because they will all do this. So one, to filter the water more effectively, but two, so they don't snap by a slide on the current.
Yeah, they can rotate, and we see them a lot in the shallows as well, or because there's so much water movement, as you can imagine, in the shallows with a bit of wave and current movement.
Alrighty, everybody, I'm going to have to wrap this dive up because I have hit 60 bar. But thank you all for joining me again. It's been an awesome dive, swimming amongst the schools of horse-eye jack and the tarpon. Thanks, Rihanna and Simone, and we'll see you back here 7 AM Grand Cayman time tomorrow for another exciting dive. See you, everyone.